Well, hi. So we're live. Um, well, I'm just going to give a short introduction about me and the idea behind this show first. So my name is Arvid, and I am a guest lecturer, a guest speaker, author, podcaster, advisor, hopefully a futurist and a co-founder. But more important than that, I'm trying to be on a constant quest to figure out what makes us better. I mean, like professionals and individuals. To help me do just that, I have created a podcast or a podcast or whatever, the Arvid Show, which is trying to sort out self help, personal development, professional development, challenges, new technology, theories, and basically everything related to what you and I need to do to get better. Um, This is basically a show to help me find a way to be, or help you to find a way to be all we can be as a business person, as a husband, as a wife, brother, sister, son, daughter, friend, or just an acquaintance. Now, the business need to know show, it's basically the ground zero for personal development. This is where we uncover the secret language of business, what everything means, how it works, and how we can use things to our advantage. So, in today's show, we're going to start to talk about playbooks, what it is, where it can be used or utilized, how we go about making one, and key considerations. The conclusion in today's show is going to be that if you want your success to be replicable and predictable, a playbook is probably your safest bet. Unless having a playbook, that's kind of smart. Um, so, what will be the key takeaways from today's show? Well, you can design a playbook for anything you want to achieve. A good playbook has to cater to your personality and strengths. A good playbook will by default make you better and more structured. Um, and a playbook is basically how you plan to win, blow by blow. And if there's one thing you need to remember, like if you're leaving right now and you find this extremely boring and just want to press stop, you're of course welcome to do. Uh, there isn't one Michelin chef in the world preparing a service without a recipe, nor McDonald's, or any athlete winning anything noteworthy. So why would it be any different for you and me? Why should we win in an even more competitive landscape, competing with people who has great playbooks? Finally, in this short introduction, today I'll be referring to several programs, tests, uh, computerized systems, stuff like that, and so forth. And I'm going to put in an extensive list and description in the show notes. Okay, so let's dive in. Um, a playbook is planning how to reach your goals. That's just the basic understanding of a playbook. For a footballing team or a soccer team or a basketball team, it's how they want to play to score more goals than their opponent and how they go about doing that day-to-day business to make that happen. Now in sports, which is easy to understand for most of us, um, it will cover everything from how you recruit your players based on individual traits to how you set up individual training regimes to how you work individual nutritional programs and how you work individual sleep schedules. Everything they do is basically designed to maximize the output you have in games. Now, furthermore, obviously, as a starter with, you're going to have an idea on how this is going to look on the pitch as well. So you start with the pitch and then you re-engineer and work your way backward from there. However, the idea of a playbook is applicable to almost everything you do. It's it can be used on how we meet a partner, how to find more clients, how to progress a career. Um, it doesn't matter. It's all about you or me setting a target and designing a way to meet that target. There are, however, a few prerequisites we have to consider. Now, first of all, it's that a playbook to work well, it has to be designed to our personality and strengths. It's like going back to the athlete. If you are 6'5" and kind of slow, but really good at heading, uh, there's one way we can train to make you better at doing what you do. Likewise, if you're 5'5" and really quick and are really good at passing the ball, okay, there's another training regime for you. So the idea of a playbook is that has to be individualized. You cannot expect to achieve success just by blueprinting what someone else has done before you. Uh, I I was going to use an example with Usain Bolt because he's the greatest sprinter of all time, and how his training regime had to be completely different from mine, or mine obviously had to be completely different from his, and I think everyone understands that. And the same goes when you design a playbook. He has his strengths, I have my strengths. Now, if someone now points out that I'm not a sprinter and I'm not supposed to be competing with it, well, that's right. That's completely right. There's no point for me trying to compete if I'm not competitive. So if I have no talent at all, or is not talent enough to win, I should probably change my career or my end game or goals. Um, but I'm going to summarize just a little bit. To a playbook is and can be successfully applied to almost anything. Personally, I would recommend everyone to start with one and work their way up from there. So I'm going to do a little step-by-step guide in how we can go about setting up our first playbook. Um, the first one is obviously going to be a little more complicated than the second one and the third one and so forth. And that has to do with us figuring out a couple of things, because to make a playbook perfect, you have to, as we kind of concluded with, play it to your strengths and capabilities and talents and everything, and more than anything, maybe personality. When it comes to do a playbook in your day-to-day life or in your business, in your business life, you have to cater for your personality as well, because that tells a lot about who you are in your relationship with other people. So, but even so, there's a couple of steps that's generic and goes for everyone. The first step when it comes to a playbook is obviously to set a goal. And the easiest way to go about designing your first playbook is to decide, or to kind of figure out one of the goals you already have. So what we're going to do, as soon as we have that, um, the rest is kind of like making a traveling plan. Step two, when we have the goal, is to sit down and assess ourselves, our personality, strength, weaknesses, where you can develop, where I can develop, uh, and where we are most likely to fail. And there's a lot of tests we can use. I would suggest, as a minimum, do the disc test. You can find a lot of them online. You should also do the Challenger test as a personality test. I would recommend that you touch by Adam Grant's and his give and take. All of these tests will help you figure out who you are, not only for yourself, but also according to other people. For example, the Challenger is not a test, but it's a type of personality, and is really good in describing how what our strengths are interacting with other people. So it's quite applicable in sales, but it goes everywhere because it's all about the human relations. I said a disc test. That's more like to figure out if you're introvert, extrovert, stuff like that. How you prefer to go about doing your business. And I think I said the Adam Grant thing. That's that's not a test neither, but it tells something about who you are as a person. Do you like to provide? Do you like to help yourself of, of what other provides, or are you the kind of person that will match what everyone else provides equally? So going forward, I would suggest you at least touch by them. As I said, I'm going to leave great instructions how to find them in the show notes. Um, when we have figured out our goal, that's when we start. So step three, obviously, now we're going to do some reverse engineering. If we have a goal, we can literally break it down to processes. What needs to be done to achieve that goal? Is it, and maybe it's easier if exemplified. If you want to be the best real estate agent in your area, if that's the goal, well, okay. The easiest way to get started is, okay, what is best? What does that mean? Is that selling selling most, or selling the most expensive, or having the best the most satisfied clients, being better at customer retention? You have to really define what the goal is, because being best in itself is not a tangible goal. It has to be tangible. So okay, so as soon as we have said, okay, I want to be the best real estate agent in my area, selling and sell more than everyone else. I want to have more listings than everyone else. Okay, what does that mean? Well, the one that those leading right now, they have 50 listings each year, for example. Well, okay, then you're going to need 60. So how do you go about getting 60? Well, okay, you have to break down. This is the market for, and I'm just exemplifying now. So first you can break it down and say, this is the market. You have the residential area, you have the commercial area, the real estate area, the landowners, stuff like that, and just kind of break it down to different markets and different segments, and then you have to figure out, okay, what do they want from their real estate agent? Because being better means being better. So you need to know what they want so you can present yourself as the better person. But to do that, you're going to need to know what your personality is first. But let's not get bogged down by that, because everything here is kind of like just following the recipe. Now you know what it means to be best, and that means that you know the market, what they want, and you know who you're competing with, and you know how. As soon as you know what they want, you can start, really uh, plan the process good, because you know what they want. You can start to design and think about how am I going to find them, how am I going to reach out to them, what do they need to hear, what kind of advertising do I need to do, what kind of communication do I have to do, and all these things kind of ends up in quite a simple process. Now for real estate, it would be like, okay, so I have this goal, I want to be the best. This is the market. Cool. Okay. Step one, prospect. Step two, monitor. Step three, reach out. Step four, offer and negotiations. Within these steps, you have to be better than your competitors. You have to know what makes you better within each step to design the playbook you want. Okay. And to kind of put it a little easier. Step one, define the goal. This is where I want to go. Step two, assess yourself, personality, strengths, weaknesses, everything. Step three, deciding what needs to be done. Step four, breaking down each process to tangibles and concrete activities and decide or design your own KPIs for that process. And step five, to plug these activities into your to do list. Step six, execute activities and see how the result measures up to your KPIs. Now, step seven is to adjust and adapt. Now, when you're designing a playbook, there might be some rules and regulations you have to consider. I would at least make sure that you're not doing anything wrong when it comes to GDPR, and that's because you will probably be storing some personal data of people because, well, you are assessing stuff, you are making lists on who you want to reach out to and what you want to do. Make sure you are doing that in accordance with the law. um, at this point I would usually say something about who's best in business today, and why this is important. But there's an easier way to consider it. There's a paid playbook function inside almost every customer relation management system or sales system or marketing system. Now, to me, that suggests that the majority of successful businesses and individuals uses them. And just to keep going, there isn't one athlete or any winning team or any great restaurant that goes about their day-to-day business not having a clear-cut recipe on how everything is going to get done to make sure that they produce the best results on a day-to-day basis. Um, there's obviously a time factor here to make sure that um, you don't spend too much time. But here's the thing: um, you're not going to use any more time by utilizing a playbook. These are the same processes. It's just about making them more efficient, and just making sure that everything you do when you're at work or personal are leading you towards the goal you have. Um, and is it expensive? I would say it's expensive not to. A good playbook will by default give you more sales, better branding, better partnerships. It's just going to be better. And bettering your output is always going to be a great investment, and it's not expensive. The major pitfalls when designing your first playbook is to believe it's done and you just, okay, this is it, this is the way I'm going to do it for the rest of my life. A playbook needs constant development because here's the thing: this is in any competition anywhere. As soon as you figured out something that works, your competitor has to do something else, and they're going to keep developing. And if you let them develop without doing something yourself, well, at some point they will surpass you. The other pitfall is searching for perfection and not getting started. uh, a playbook will never be perfect. Its purpose is not to be perfect. Its purpose is to make you better. So it has to be a constant development. Just use it and keep developing. Uh, on the other hand, you cannot change too much all the time because then you're not going to get anything done. So the way I would do it or recommend people to do it is to make the playbook and use it, and you know try to write down any experience and any feedback you have that says something about how you go about doing your business, and maybe adjust the playbook once a month, every bi month, something like that. It not too often. You have to. Production is more important than adjusting a document, And you will, as soon as you start doing this, always find some better way to do stuff, or something that sounds smart that you want to include. But push it a little bit, and try to adjust the book or your playbook maybe once a month. uh, when it comes to the technical stuff in the playbook, I was talking about the challenger and the innovator, the give and take in this. I didn't talk about the innovator. And that's important um, when you design your playbook. Let's talk about the challengers first. um, Challenger is a theory that comes from sales, and it says that you have these different archetypes of personalities, and it's all about how you can utilize them in sales. And you have the typical, the hard worker. Now, if you're a person that comes into work and you are just pounding through the lists and making stuff happen through and through, you're probably a hard worker. A hard worker produces results just because that's what they do. They are awesome at it. Next to the hard worker, you usually have the relationship development person. These are the people that remember everyone's birthday, and their wives' names and husbands' names and children's names, and they just remember everything, and they talk about it, and they build great relationships, and they make sure that a client that kind of enters the frame never leaves. Then you have the people that's great at upsells. These are the ones that you want in stores, because when someone enters and they have decided that they want one thing, they'll make sure that you'll buy something else. A lot of car salespeople are up salespeople. You came for a basic car, and you left with something much more. Then you have what we refer to as the lone wolf. The lone wolf is a person that kind of just wanders off, and nobody really knows what they do or how they do it, but they do produce results. It's just that it's difficult, or to measure up why and how it happens. Uh, Obviously, on top of that, or not on top of that, but what named the theory is that you have the challenger. And the challenger is a person that challenges clients' perceived idea of what they actually need. So they know a lot about their service, and they know a lot about the market, and they are able to turn the client 180 degrees and into something completely else, because that's what they really need. These are the archetypes, and then this is kind of built like that. There's none of us that's really only one of them. Almost everyone has some part of whichever. But the point is that you obviously can see that a person that is a hard worker needs a different playbook from the lone wolf, because the hard worker, he's going to come in and do whatever's on the list and make sure it happens. So he can have a tight list. He can have structured recipes on how he's going to go about and get shit done. Now the lone wolf, if he gets the playbook from the from the hard work, it's not going to work, because he's probably not going to be there, or she's not going to be there. She's going to be somewhere else working their magic and just making something happen. Now the same goes for the people that's really good at the upsells. Now their strengths is in the direct relation, the communication when the client is here. So their playbook obviously has to be catered or built to make sure they are in contact with a client as much of the time as possible. Or for the challenger, there's no point having someone in a store making people buy an oven instead of a dryer, because they probably maybe need an oven more than they need a dry. That's waste of talent. So the playbook for a challenger also has to be different from the hard worker. So you see where I'm coming from. And when we break it down to the disc, obviously, if you are extrovert versus introvert, that tells a lot about how you want to communicate with your clients. Are you a telephone person? Are you an email person? Are you someone that's better in large gatherings? There's no point if your personality is that you are better in large gatherings, to build a playbook where you have to use the telephone a lot makes no sense. So to give you a standardized playbook, if that's your skill set, it makes no sense. You see where I'm coming from? Then you have the give and take. That tells something about how you're going to interact or work in the group. If you are a person that's acutely aware of the value on the table and what you can do with it, and you really want to just take it and use it because you feel that's in the team's best interest, versus if you are a person that's really good at make everyone around you produce better. Now obviously the two of you is going to need different playbooks as well. So making sure playbooks works and are individually designed is extremely important. I said something about innovators and early users and stuff like that as well. And for me, that's really important because it it we are all innovators somewhere and laggards in something else. It just depends um, what's on the table. What are we? What's the end game, the end goal? And depending on where our competence related to the playbook we want to design, it tells us something about where we are in that value chain, and we have to utilize that to our strength as well. But what you can see is that the your personality has great impact. I mean, like immense impact on how you work in relationship with other people. And at the end of the day, there isn't that many jobs out there where you at no point have to interact with other people. So to make sure that these um, traits are catered for in your playbook is extremely important. Um, when it comes to make sure, in most cases when you do a playbook, it's to get you somewhere, and there's going to be some competition somewhere. And what I would do, I'm a list kind of guy. I'm a challenger in many cases, but also I do like my lists. So to make sure your playbook is better than everyone else, you need to know who you're competing with and try to figure out how they work. Because if you know how they work, if you know how they approach their day-to-day business, even in if it's to find a life partner, if you know how everyone else works, you can do better. You can always design something that's better. The resources are there. You can let artificial intelligence help you. But make a list: who's the competitors and how do they do stuff. Uh, so how do we get started? I wrote down a couple of questions I do get, so I kind of started in that end. Uh, just go out and start executing. Uh, a playbook playing to your strengths will always be better than no playbook. And a playbook is never perfect nor finished. It's constantly developing, but it needs to be used to be effective. Anything that's just laying on your desk waiting for your next adjustment is not going to help you get anything done. And this is proper important. It's like having a warm sweater in your back sack. It only helps keep you warm when you wear it. And the same goes for playbook. You need a playbook to make sure you reach your goals, and you need to use it. So I have some typical questions, so I'm going to answer because this means that we are at the end. Um, to get started, you need to find a goal or something that you want to achieve, personal, professional, or as a business. Try to reverse engineer what needs could be done to get there or thereabouts. It's like, okay, I want to go to Rome. Cool. That's a goal. Now I can go by sea, I can go by plane, I can do a train, I can drive, I can bike, I might even walk. So there's the options. Each of them are different processes. Now, each of these processes requires me to do different stuff. Now, I'm going to need a passport, obviously. If I want to go by plane, I'm going to need some money. If I want to go by boat, I'm going to need some money. If I want to go biking, I'm going to need a bike. If I'm going to go by car, I'm going to need a car. Uh, and so we can reverse engineer that. Okay. If I'm going to need some money, I'm going to need to work. If I'm going to need to work, I'm going to need to apply for a job. If I'm going to need to apply for a job, I'm going to need to find a job. I'm going to need to write an application. Probably going to need to write a CV. Uh, and you see, all of these three processes can be done better. I can find a perfect way to write a CV, a perfect way to write an application, and probably find a good job. The point is that you can all. It's always about breaking it down to the processes that you're going to need to get done. Hook on every activity that needs to be done and make sure you plug it into your calendar. That's a playbook in itself. So what I'm trying to say is that what you want to do, you want to isolate the different stages or processes and find out how far down do you need to break it down to make it something you can get done all the time. Plug it into your calendar, make sure you have the time needed, execute, adjust and adapt, and don't give up. Uh, a common rebuttal I face when I talk about this is that, yeah, this sounds smart. It sounds like something that works for almost everyone else, but not me. And the thing is that, yeah, most thing does. And it's like that for almost every one of us. This is something we're going to come back to at a later stage. But uh, this is about learning and how we as human perceive doing things differently. As I said, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole today. That's for another day. But in short, we hate new stuff because that means that we have to do something different. And doing different means bringing us out of our comfort zone. And as I said again, we hate it. So this is not you. This is everyone. Everyone that has to do something in a way they haven't done before, requiring them to maybe even learn something, makes them hate it. So yeah, if you feel that playbook, it sounds smart, but it's not for you. Yeah, make no mistake, it's for you as well. Another question: do I have to learn a lot of new stuff? No, probably not. For the most part, you can keep doing a lot of the things you do. It's all about getting it more structured, just making sure that everything happens at the right time. This is like seasoning a steak. Everyone does it, but every chef out there is going to tell you there's a right time to do it. I'm not going to go that rabbit hole either because there are different opinions between different chefs. However, they would say that to make sure the meat has the best quality, you have to season at a distinct time. As long as you do that, it's going to be perfect. And it's the same for you. So you are probably doing all the stuff that you need to do already, but it's about making sure that it gets done at the right time. Uh, does it work for anyone else in my business? Well, obviously, I do not know what business you're in, but my educated guess would be that those around you who you perceive to be more successful or better, or maybe just as a competitor, are probably utilizing a playbook in some sense. And if you're lucky enough that none of your competitors are using playbooks, well, that's an amazing opportunity, because if you start using it, you will park them. That they will never know what hit them. You'll just blow straight ahead and take a lead that they will probably not be able to do something about. Yeah. Okay. So that was that for today. We'll be back with more. We have several shows. This is the only one where it's just me. Um, we have the unboxing, where we talk about personal development with people writing and lecturing people on personal development. So a lot of writers, journalists, and we have mastered, which is about people that have been involved with some really great cases and what made them succeed. Examples can be how 80% of Netflix viewerships is based on recommendations. And these recommendations, I'm talking about the hyper personalized, intelligent recommendations that Netflix provides themselves. And someone figured that out and set it up. And it's obviously massively successful. So these are the kind of people we want to talk to. And then we do have what we call the Big Brief, which is a show where we bring together a panel to talk about, kind of concrete stuff. When we I've had this perception in many years that China was this elusive, exclusive, majorly attractive market. And I recently learned that the average age in China is 53 or 58 years old, and they don't really have kids. So, and my point is the Big Brief. I want to talk to people that can help us understand what that means for us personally and professionally. So, well, that's it. Thank you for listening or watching or whatever. As everything online, this will stay there. So if you're watching live or at the later stage, enjoy and have a great day.